Hey, welcome to Contentstack Live. I'm your host, Jeff Baher, along with my assistant, Austin Chen. Joining us today is Pete Larsen. He's the vice president of our technical services organization here at Contentstack. Pete, welcome to the program.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Hey, earlier this year, we announced our technical services organization, the one that you lead. So maybe we could just start there. Like, what is the technical services organization, or the TSO as you come to know it? What's the charter of the group?
Sure. We're a group recently, I guess we onboarded in 2021. We bring agency knowledge with hands-on experience with our product. So for about 5 years prior to joining Contentstack, we were off operating with our sister company in an agency capacity, a digital service capacity. So we bring that field experience in with what I'd consider best practices and our advisory experience to the table to help our customers, our prospects that are evaluating our product, and even our partners that are implementing it. Really trying to bring the knowledge that we have to the table to help them be successful with their implementation projects.
Well, that's cool. The backdrop or theme is in many cases composable or going composable. The topic of today the episode is really adopting the right tech strategy for your company to go composable. So help us understand some of the strategies, because there's obviously a big, how do I get from A to B kind of exercise for customers, big and small, and from different starting points. So, what are some of the top strategies that enterprises are considering? How do we kind of frame it from the TSO's perspective?
Right. In the conversations we've had with customers, I think the biggest one right off the get-go here is the opportunity to define a strategic business goal, or to redefine how your business does their business process. So it's an opportunity to transform and streamline a business process, whether that be segregation of duty, reviewing your software development lifecycle to streamline that process, make it, your time to publish, and you can increase that. You can reduce your development time, and you can do direct empowerment of your content marketers. There's an opportunity to look at whether you want to operate from a centralized management standpoint, how you want to empower maybe satellite capabilities if you're multi-branded, but really a chance to redefine your rules of engagement. It also gives you an opportunity to evaluate the core solution services, be able to review the costs, how you might be able to improve capability or performance. Going composable means that you get to pick the best in class services and work to integrate those, whether that be, let's say, personalization, translations. Oftentimes there's a chance to do some creative things with advanced search and analytics, different integrations. If you're a commerce partner, B2B, B2C, just a chance to streamline that process and reduce your cost. Other things that we do, we talk about, strategic goals of reviewing and completing content audits. But I think at the end of the day, it's strategic planning. Whether you're going to do it's a rebranding opportunity, or the chance to just enhance your message out to your clients. These would be all things that I'd be thinking of in a discovery process before a project.
What's been your experience just with when you're engaging with customers, them already knowing some of those questions, or versus us bring to light some of those questions? Like, how much is it like, I didn't actually really know? And that's a great question.
How we've been doing it enough that we've got some templates and some, what I'd call discovery questionnaires that we kind of work through. But, my main goal is to get these questions back in front of the business teams and have them start to think through it. We're happy to give some examples or ideas on how to go about doing this. But, I find that projects, specifically the transition to a composable, architecture, if you spend a little bit of time up front doing some planning and some thinking about how you want to transform and document those, that information helps us identify the direction you're going, and we could bring experiences specific to those planning goals that you have. So having a little bit of that done up front gives us an opportunity to drive it in the right direction, the direction that the customer's going towards.
Yeah. Can you maybe share an example or two of a customer, and one that you have to name it by name, but one that kind of characterizes some of like what that thought process is, how we've carried them through it, any maybe surprises or gotchas, along the way in that particular case?
Yeah, we've done a few of them. Uh, I'll go back in time. I worked with a telecommunications company. They had a massive site on WordPress. It was like over 5,000 entries, a lot of assets, and it was stale. It was old, and they were at a point where they knew they needed to make a change. We were very fortunate in that the technical VP for that group he's one of those guys that had a lot of Bay Area experience, had worked with a number of different companies, and believed in technology adoption early in the process. So we had him as a champion to the product, but his big challenge was trying to sell this internally. So we developed a strategy. Actually, it was his idea, but we helped shape that strategy of doing a small discovery project, kind of a POC project, where we focused on one of their main internal pain points. Took a microsite. We put in a couple of key integrations that were also a challenge for them internally. We worked together with them to help build that out. And then he was able to use this as kind of a show and tell model internally to the company, and was able to get additional adoption and excitement around that with the other business teams. So much so that they were willing to provide additional feedback and contribute to a project. Ultimately, this led to defining a much larger project. It was an MVP that moved their entire corporate site over. But I think it was that experience of starting small and failing fast, working on a small project collaboratively, and being able to sell that internally to get excitement that drove them to fully make that move. And so, here again, the discovery process was helpful. We kind of worked through, the challenges they were facing with recommendations. And then, they didn't try to bite off too much at one time. They used that small project to learn more about the project, so that when we did planning for the corporate site, they had a lot of different ideas at that point and knew the direction they wanted to go forward with. And then, obviously communicating that with us, we were able to help them get that project successfully launched in about 5 months.
Do you see that as a common kind of approach, where it's get an MVP that you can then use as showcase to sell, or have you found some that are, they were well past that collectively? And
well, I think the message I like to share is that you don't have to do it all at once. This could be piecemealed and done in parts. There's an opportunity to operate on a legacy system and Contentstack as you're making that transformation change. And so, whether you want to take this project and run it over the course of a longer period of time and do it in parts and pieces, or just fully go into a full project to move or to rebrand onto the new platform, it's really up to you. I always suggest to start with something small so that we can, work through how the product works and allow the client to get some hands-on experience with it before we move to a more costly project, where if you make a mistake, it could cost more money to correct that mistake or refactor that mistake.
The selling inside the organization, I find that very intriguing, right? Because I do all the product marketing, so it's easy to make slides that look good, and of course, you would just buy it and deploy it, but there's obviously a significant sell job that has to happen inside the organization. What's your sense around the benefits that you lean on that really get people to, I think, either poke at what you're saying, or really kind of like that's really people really kind of get hooked on to why they want to do this? Because it's not easy. There's a path to which you can make it that, but what's the promised land that people are sort of seeing there?
I spent 20 years in enterprise, working in IT, specifically in software development, and the constructs of being able to reduce the reliance onto your team for day-to-day management operations is to me probably the biggest piece of that. Having had to manage both the maintenance and support side plus the new project side of things, wanting to have my resources directed towards more strategic projects was always the goal. But we always had to manage the maintenance lift in the back, and that usually impacted our ability to do future forward thinking work. So I'd say the reliance on technical teams go down. You're able to decrease your work intake process, and focus, and then point your resources towards, I can't talk today, point your resources towards strategic projects, more roadmap things. This energizes your team as well. They get to focus on new technologies, really get to enhance their skills, versus focusing on kind of the mundane maintenance and support that goes on in the background. And then ultimately, from a leadership standpoint, this shift will reduce your cost of ownership. And so if you're a person that's managing budget, you should see your costs go down as a part of this move. You'll have less maintenance. You have the flexibility to replace services based off price or capability. As your requirements change, you're not tied into these large contracts, and it's easy to go in and with a scalpel remove a specific service and replace it. So I think those are big ones to me.
Yeah, it's kind of chuckling, at least in my mind, when you were saying that, because I also have 20, maybe closer to 30 years in this industry. I think the hairline to prove it, but I write along those same benefit statements. So it's great to hear you really kind of on the receiving end of representing the customers that are on the receiving end of that experience. That is when we say allowing you to do more strategic things in your day-to-day operation. Like, we love saying that, like in our marketing speak, but it's great to hear it actually being true in the technologies that are being delivered, and that being something which is one of the big payoffs of going composable, and that you see that in the real world is very good.
Well, one thing I do see is that if you're managing support day-to-day operations and you're doing a great job, you get that nice pat on the back. But if you're closing strategic projects successfully, you get a lot more visibility within the company and your career as a whole. I think that strategic projects are how you get ahead.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about, composable heroes here and making heroes out of our customers. And one measure of that is their, upward mobility career-wise and success they're having by decisions they make around technologies and investments. And yeah, I think we have a nice kind of track record there as well. But that speaks to your point loud and clear, right? That sort of the strategic initiatives that kind of become the big levers for you as an individual and for an organization.
And they might make the most change for your company too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is great. What, in terms of caution, what might you, because it sounds like it might be not easy, but you can sell people on this proposition. What might you want to caution technical teams on?
Sure. I think planning, I know it sounds cliche, but proper planning up front of what you want to do and what your goals are, what the project wins would be, so to speak. Having those internal conversations collaboratively, making sure you've got all your stakeholders weigh in on it, is tantamount. I mean, if you're prepared going into a project, you have the resources and you have your requirements and scope defined, the project will go pretty cleanly. I'd mentioned earlier, start small, start with the smaller MVP. I say start small, fail fast, and learn. But the big challenge here is identify a pain point, a major pain point that you need to solve. But let's go tackle that one first and spend a little time learning about the platform. We're here to consult on implementation ideas. We've seen, countless use cases, and we're willing to share our experience and make, take these experiences and help you make competent decisions with them. So I think those are the main goals. A lot of planning up front will pay off. That's usually where we're going to spend most of our time, is getting the difficult job of defining it onto paper. And then from there, bring the right teams in to execute the construction side of it. So
yeah, that's good. That's great. Austin, any questions from the audience as this conversation was going along?
Yeah, we got a couple from the audience. First one here, they're wondering, are CTOs worried about replatforming, to put it bluntly? What's one of the biggest hurdles or flat out myths you encounter when talking about replatforming?
That's a good question. These all have been pretty good. It takes time. Replatforming can go, it doesn't take as much time as you think. I'd say replatforming can go quickly. But one of the biggest myths I'd have is that designing is easy. When you're working on a redesign, and I'd assume this is maybe you're not going to lift and shift your site onto our platform, and you want to take the opportunity to put a new look and feel for the site and maybe change your messaging. What I've learned is working with UI UX developers is that, generally people don't know what they want, but they know they want to change. The first time you look at a design from a UI UX developer, you'll review that design and know, all right, that may not be exactly what I want, but at least now I can give some feedback. Another iteration will get closer to your feedback, and it's usually not till the third iteration of UI UX design that you actually have an agreed upon design collaboratively against all your stakeholders that you can move forward with. And you need to plan for that. I've seen design take as much as 8 weeks, 2 months of work before the project can even begin. Or you could say that's a pre-step in the project, but you've got to clear that design hurdle first, and it takes time. I think that would be the first one I would talk through.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. Another question that you had, Austin, I think?
Yeah, one more. This one is how long if a project is switching to composable architecture? It sounds like Contentstack has created a dedicated division to ensure it's seamless. Is this typical?
Projects can take, well, I mean, they're all different shapes and sizes depending on what we're transforming and what we're transforming off of. A typical project for me is 16 to 18 weeks, and that includes collaborative business user acceptance testing, a full round of QA. To me, that's about average. But I've seen projects go a little bit longer depending on the complexities. The things that I always talk through is understand what can be worked in parallel versus what has dependencies, and make sure you optimize your project plan around that. That'll enhance your time to market with your project. We're not a typical professional service department. So, technical, the TSO here at Contentstack, we're not a pay to play, type model where we're actually delivering code. We're here to work directly alongside you and collaborate on anything from architecture services to migration capabilities. Our team contributes to our marketplace. A number of the apps out there we've helped contribute to by developing those completely. We're well versed in content modeling. When we're willing to work with you on your models, and we'll actually take the lead on that to help you work that through. And I think the biggest highlight for us here coming into this fiscal year is our ability to train. So we have both what I'd call developer-based training, where we'll help a developer work towards a certification, and then we'll have our end user business training, focus on how a user interacts with the system, how to administrate the system. We're taking this forward and hope to have an online capability here soon that our customers will be able to take advantage of. But I feel like our training is best in class, and we'll work with you as long as it takes to make sure you understand how to use our product.
I had actually just a follow-on question to that too. How do customers gain access to these services? Is it, I know we offer like enablement strategists with each of our opportunities. So how does this capability get paired with an opportunity with a customer with the project?
Sure. So there is an ordering process that you'll work on with an account executive. I think we offer some packages that could be purchased, to onboard us for ongoing consulting. But typically our engagement will come through the point of signature. So once you've signed with Contentstack, a customer success manager is, aligned to your account, and we work directly behind that customer success manager. So depending on the needs, when we go through a kickoff at the start of our engagement, we're there to line out the specific services that are needed for that account. And so whether we immediately start with training and start to work together on understanding how the product works, which leads into additional sessions around architecture or migration or integrations, we're all talking the same language. It generally will start with our customer success manager, who is the point of contact with the client. And we'll work right behind them to ensure that the customer is successful.
Yeah. And I mean, that, I guess in and of itself, it's not, you don't get that with every, headless CMS like company necessarily either. So our ability, I think, to kind of staff it appropriately is also, I guess, kind of an important kind of starting point to this, that we have customer success managers that can carry each customer kind of through their journey. We have technical teams behind that can then like back that up.
Our capabilities will increase with the size of the deal. So if we're working with larger scale type deals, we've got a larger team that comes in and supports that. Those customers that are just starting out and learning our product, we're here to provide some quick training to get you started. There is a little management of cost to a certain degree here, and that,
Of course, yeah.
we've got a pretty considerable size team and can bring those to bear, but we have to manage our costs as well.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. I think that's it. Right? Those are all the questions. Great conversation. I know you touch on a number of things that we'd love to have you come back. I think especially the apps that are in the marketplace potentially is just a way to like share with some of the expertise that you've now packaged up, made available, but super helpful and insightful. And thank you. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
All right. And that's it. See you all again soon. Thank you.
Be sure to check out the show notes for relevant links and content. To learn even more about the power of going composable, head to contentstack.com.